Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How are we doing? If you have the ability to turn your camera on, we'd love to see your beautiful faces. Excited for our very first webinar of 2024. Got a good one today. This topic was a complete mindset shift for me, one of those light bulb moments that happened when Mr. Metzger shared it with me back in 2015. And really excited to share it with you guys. We are going to be walking through this PDF. I'm going to drop it in the chat now. If you have a printer and you want to print it out, you can do that. If you're not going to print it, not a big deal at all. I'll drop the link again in a little bit, but this is something we're going to be unpacking towards the end. While we have everybody popping in, let me know, what's the temperature where you're at? What's the temperature where you're at? We're at 65 degrees here in Tampa. I know it's kind of crazy for some of you up north. Let me know in the chat. What's the temperature? Ooh, 38. Mr. Jackson, Ms. Patassi, 55, 43. Okay, 38's the winner right now with the lowest. Anybody else? Anybody lower than that? Real feel negative 12. 28 degrees. Wow. 13. Oh, Mr. Keffer, I think, is in the lead then now. Do you like this weather, Mets? This little like cooler weather in Florida?
Love the cooler weather.
Okay. Me, not so much. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, definitely love the cold over the heat.
All right. So, Mets, what'd you do this weekend? You had a pretty busy weekend, right? Doing some stuff for the industry.
Last weekend,
Yeah, this past weekend.
yeah, we had the owners boot camp, which you were a big part of, and I think it was another huge success. So that was great. And then when that ended, what did I do? What did most of us do? It was football time, huh? People, Miss Neville's, I see that. Not good for the Cowboys. No good
Sports
for the
ball.
Cowboys. Not good for the Eagles.
Well, you also had a big event Saturday night, though, no?
Oh, right. Yes. Thank you, Chris.
That thing?
Saturday night, we had our big CMA awards banquet dinner. So we gave out awards and had a great dinner at Texas de Brazil for about 100 of us. And that was great as well. So, yes, it was a busy weekend.
I had the opportunity to see one of these awards banquets. It was maybe last year or the year before, and pretty cool to see people coming on stage getting, awards for being with the company 20 years, 25 years. I don't know. That was super inspiring for me when I got to see that.
Chris, you wouldn't believe it, but I'll publicly say it. I actually got emotional because it was me and Nick Peterman. Nick Peterman started with me. We were teenagers. He's younger than me, but he was 13 turning 14. And we trained together since he was 9. I was, I'm older, but I had asked him to help teach, and I always promised him I would take him along for the journey. And when I was looking at 100 people here in this area at Texas de Brazil, I was presenting Nick Peterman with his 30-year award of being with the company. And that was a little bit of emotional looking at, what he definitely was an integral part in building, and in his position. But 30 years with the company, he got his 30-year award.
It's amazing. Absolutely awesome. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and dive in. We're really talking about reverse engineering your goals. We are going to be unpacking this revenue expansion blueprint. If you guys want to grab that, download it, have access to it. If I had to ask a question, I'm going to pose some questions. And if you've ever been on one of our webinars, we ask for feedback, right? It gives us feedback loops. It lets us know where you're at. It's more engaging. It's more fun. But if you had to choose just one or the other, would you rather have more students or would you rather have more revenue? Let me know in the comments. Is the answer students or is the answer revenue? All right. Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Revenue, revenue, revenue. Yes, that's kind of what I expected to see. And it's interesting because in this industry, and I see it in the agency industry as well, we're all so focused on new students, right? But it's just one way that we can increase our revenue. So thank you so much for hopping on with us today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, pull up the slides, and let's dive right in. So really the goal for today is to give you a proven way where if you implement this, you could literally double your revenue without needing to double your student enrollments, right? And while getting new students and your active count is an important number, it's not the only important number. And I think where people kind of get stuck is they set a goal, whether it's a new student goal or a revenue goal, and they have this macro outlook. They have this desired outcome, but they don't necessarily have this like micro process on how they're going to get there. And that's exactly what we're going to give you today is this blueprint to reverse engineer your goals. And we're definitely going to talk about mindset. So first thing we'll unpack is the difference between your tuition versus your total gross revenue. And this is really like the concept of today's session. When I first learned this from Mr. Metzger, it really blew my mind. We're going to ask you to have a little bit of kind of coming to today's session with an open cup and talk about the mindset behind it. Talk about one metric that not a lot of schools are tracking that you absolutely need to be looking at on a monthly basis, how to properly break down your goals, different profit centers for you to increase your revenue, right? Every single one of you said like revenue was the answer. And then I'm going to share my iPad and we're going to walk through this worksheet on exactly how you can reverse engineer those goals. Okay. And we're going to do that through the revenue expansion blueprint. So code of honor, let's be present, shut down Facebook, shut down the social media apps, shut down the email. Let's be present for the next hour. Participate. Please ask questions. We'll try to do the best job that we can to answer those and then come with an open mind. Okay. For those of you that might not know Mr. Metzger, he was my consultant. We started working together back in 2015. He oversees MIA, the Martial Arts Industry Association. And he also owns 9 schools in Orlando called Championship Martial Arts. And he also owns CMA licensee program. And the reason why this is so important, and Metz, you can add, whatever you want in a second, is that he hasn't proven that this just works well in one school. He hasn't just proven that it works well in his 9 schools. He's proven that it works well for literally hundreds and hundreds of schools because this is the process that we follow at MIA and CMA. So Metz, anything else quickly you want to kind of share before we go to the next slide?
I think you said it. I mean, anything that we teach or that anything that's ever come from me, I always make sure that it's something that's duplicatable and proven, because there are some things out there that people will teach you and they're absolutely successful. But when you start asking the right questions, you realize they live in an area that's exceptionally dense, very populated, household incomes of over 700,000. That's not duplicatable. That's not something that I can always just do in my area. So I think you said it. This is something that it doesn't matter where you're at. It'll work anywhere.
Awesome. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Cris Rodriguez. I'm the digital marketing director for MIA, and I also founded Grow Pro Agency. We basically handled everything in terms of digital marketing, from paid ads, social media management, live lead follow-up, anything digital marketing with the exception of websites. It's really great to see a bunch of our clients on here, both from Grow Pro and from MIA. So let's go ahead and dive in, guys. Grab a pen, grab a paper. You're going to definitely want to take notes here. But I posed the question in the beginning, do you want more students or do you want to increase your revenue? And why do you want more students? And yes, we all want to make a bigger impact. I mean, we wouldn't have opened up our martial arts school if we didn't want to make an impact in our community. But we also want to increase our revenue. And when we do that, not only can we make a bigger impact in our community, but we can also make a bigger impact and create more opportunities for our team members as well. Okay. I'm going to say like a little bit of a punchy statement here, and that's that active count is a vanity metric. Okay. And you'll see this often, especially in the martial arts business Facebook groups, that people really like to wear their active count with a badge of honor, right? Oh, I've got 500 students. I've got 600 students. I've got 700 students. And that's amazing, right? Because that means that you are making a really, really great impact. But the more students that you have, the more expenses are also involved in that, potentially the larger facility that you need. And with Maya and CMA, we see this all the time where we'll have schools that have a lower active count, but are actually bringing in a lot more revenue than schools that have a higher. So, how is that possible? Well, we're going to talk about the metric that makes that possible here in a second, but I just, want to make a statement that yes, active count is important, but it's not the only important number. Mets, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's good. And if you want examples, I can get the spreadsheet to just do proven numbers, real numbers. One of the things that a lot of people say is that I'm very transparent. I know you hear stuff, like this all the time, and some of this stuff may be hard to believe for some of you. And so that's why I always like to just share the real numbers, so maybe it hits home a little bit more.
So let's dive in right to this concept, right? This is the thing that you taught me back in 2015. I remember we were on the phone. It was a, bi-weekly consulting call. And at the time, my tuition, my billing check, right? The monthly payments that were coming in was about 95% of the total gross revenue that we were collecting. And you basically said, well, that is way too high. It should be closer to 50% of your total gross revenue. And I was just like, there's no way possible. There's just absolutely no way possible. And you said, grab a pen and paper, let me walk you through it. And you walked me through, an exercise that we're going to take everybody through here towards the end of this. But, can you kind of talk about this concept of the tuition being 50% of the total gross revenue that's coming in?
Well, here's the concept, everybody. Here's the best way to really understand this. So if you got a pen and paper and you write down, and I asked everybody, tell me all the ways you can grow your tuition check or your tuition payments, meaning your recurring revenue every month. Well, there's really only two ways to do that. Either get more people on your tuition, get more members, right? Or raise your prices. Those are the two ways you can grow tuition. This is also why that most people in the industry, when I ask them how I can help, they tell me I need more students. That is the number one answer. It's funny, Cris said, do you want more students or more revenue? What's more important? And when we break it down into those two options, all of you were saying revenue, revenue, revenue. Well, even the people that say I want more students, they say they want more students because they know that will equate to more revenue, because the only way that they know how to increase revenue is that monthly billing check. Now, here's the other concept here. If I were to say, hey, let's be partners and let's go into business together, I have business A, I have two ideas. Business A, I have two ways to grow this business and maximize the success and revenue of this business. And I have this other business idea where I have like 12 ways to grow the business. Which one would you pick? The one where I have two ways to grow the business, or 12 ways? You'd pick the 12 ways. So other than tuition, how do we generate revenue inside of our school? And that's what we're going to talk about. And there's multiple ways. So if your tuition is representing 95% or more of your gross revenue, that just tells me that we don't know how to generate revenue inside the walls of our school, where the majority of your revenue should come from.
So I know this is something that you're very, cautious of and sensitive to, but can we talk about maybe the mindset shift that has to happen? Because sometimes when this gets presented, people will think, oh, that's nickel and diming. So can you talk on that?
Yeah, the reason why you think it's nickel and diming, for those of you who do, is because you heard somebody else say that or spin it in a way to where you're nickel and diming, and it's all about just getting money from your customers, and that's the absolute wrong mindset. And the example I can use here is anything we offer or do in our school should be an option for your customers to purchase. If you are forcing people to spend money in your school after you've signed them up, if you told somebody it's $100 a month and that's going to take care of your martial arts journey, then you lied to them at the beginning. If you're upfront and honest with them, saying there's some extra cost you'll incur, meaning if you ever need a new uniform, there's a cost. If you need new gear, there's a cost. If you need weapons, there's a, I mean, you're upfront, number one. And number two, the analogy I use is if you go to a restaurant and they hand you a menu, do you get insulted that they're nickel and diming you because there's appetizers on the menu, there's soups and salads on the menu, there's main dishes on the menu, there's a wine list, there's desserts? Are they nickel and diming you or just giving you choices? That's the mindset you need to have in your martial arts school. Create value for your customers and let them decide what they want to spend money on.
I love it. So, we have seen time and time again in Maya and CMA, these schools that have a lower active count, but are bringing in, more revenue. And oftentimes it has to do to the student value that is being brought in for the school. So just a really basic example of a school A that has 100 students and has a student value of $150, that would mean they're bringing in $15,000 in revenue. And then you have school B that has that same 100 students, but like they said, like Mr. Metzger said, you're offering additional options. They can increase their student value to $225, and that would bring in $22,500 in revenue. And when we start working with schools, oftentimes we see that they're not tracking what the student value is. And for a long time at Maya, we were aiming for around $185 student value. But in the past few years, we've actually increased that to above $200 in student value. So, Matt, you want to talk a little bit about why this number is important and, kind of how the profit centers, and we're going to break down the profit centers in a minute, but anything you want to add with the student value example?
Yeah. Can you just pull my screen up by chance? Because I'll show people that if you can see me, guys, do you see this? And Cris always talks about this. This is what you'll always see on my desk. These are all my schools and spreadsheets of every number you can imagine, from enrollments to student value to gross dollars to billing to attrition rates. So student value is hugely important because Cris said this at the beginning. If I get more students, at some point I need more space, and at some point I need more staff. So more expense comes with more students. But if I can figure out how to increase the value of each student, the customer value, well, that's where you maximize profitability, right? And here's the example. I'll tell you how important student value is. So right here on the bottom, I'll give you the real deal here. And I just walked into my conference room to grab this. But our billing, to give you an idea, our billing check last year was $2,250,000 in billing for the year. Our gross revenue was $5,216,000, which means we did $3 million inside the walls and $2.2 million in recurring revenue. So you'll never see it. I could show you last year, the year before, all the way back to 2010. Even during COVID, by the way, and I just showed somebody this yesterday, even during COVID, when we couldn't even have people come into school, our billing check was still 50% or less of our total gross revenue because of student value. And student value is, if you go to Mercedes-Benz, Mercedes sells cars for $40,000 and they sell cars for $200,000. But Mercedes knows what their average customer is worth, right? And you need to know what your average customer is worth in your school. And for a lot of you, you'll find that it's actually less than what you're even charging. I want to make sure you just heard what I said. You'll find out that your actual student value is less than what you even charge for tuition. And you will say to yourself, well, how is that possible? How is that? Well, it's possible because either, and I mean this respectfully, but these are the reasons. Number one, you don't know your numbers, right? Number two, you give discounts on the side and you don't realize how many offers and deals and discounts you do. Number three, and I'm going to leave you with this because I'll throw it back to Cris because I don't want to monopolize this. But number three is you'll blame the fact that you have some kind of family discounts and plans. I want to be clear on this. In our basic program, our core program, you pay for the first two family members, and all additional family members are free on their monthly. They don't pay monthly on our basic program, right? So if there's a family of 4 in our basic program, only 2 of them are paying monthly. The other 2 do not pay monthly. They don't pay. However, we still count them as part of our student value. So I was just looking at this morning. Our basic program last year was $159 a month. That's what it broke down to. Okay, $159. We just raised to $169 late last year, but $159. I have a school here last year. Their average student value for the year was $275 per student for the year. I have this other school, $257 per student, $259 for the year. Now, how do you do that when I only charged $159? Well, that's the stuff I'm thinking Cris is going to get to in a minute.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to start with the importance of tracking your numbers and going from this macro to micro. And let's start with the new students, right? Because I think this is something that, all of us have front of mind. But if you're a school and you say my goal for this month, and if you have a team and you're letting them know that the goal for this month is 10 new students, that's the macro, right? That's the desired outcome that we want. But how are we going to get there? And this is why it's so important that you're tracking your numbers, because if you know that on average, you have a 60% lead to appointment ratio. So you know that whatever amount of leads that come in, we're going to get 60% of them to book an appointment. And then because you're keeping stats, you know that 70% of them are going to show up. And then you also know when they come in, we on average close 80%. Well, if I'm keeping my stats and I know these numbers, I can now tell my team or tell myself, well, if I want 10 new students, that means that we've got to get 32 leads because we know 60% of them are going to convert to appointments, which would give us 19 appointments. We know on average 70% of them are going to show up. So that means we need 13 people to show up. And on average, we're closing 80%. And if I get 13 shows, then I'd get 10 closes. And this is us going from this macro of I want 10 students to breaking it down. Okay, well, how are we going to get there? Well, we got to get 32 leads. Okay. So we have shared in the past this KPI tracking sheet. It's called the 3 scorecards. It's a way to track your recruiting, retention, and revenue. And what you do is you plug in your daily numbers and it has the formulas automatically built in to show you those percentages. Okay. So we have to get really good at going from this macro goal, this target that we want to hit, and then reverse engineering how we're actually going to get there. Okay. Now, in terms of the revenue, this is where the 5 profit centers come in. And when I first came on to Maya back in 2015, we weren't doing a great job of leveraging all of those profit centers. We use the acronym NURS, N-U-R-R-S, to remember it. But like Mr. Metzger gave that example earlier, would you rather have a business that has 2 ways of making money or a business that has 12 ways of making money? These are some of the ways that you can increase your revenue. Now, I'm going to pass it in a second, but one of the most important aspects is to get specific on each one of these profit centers on a monthly basis. So, kind of the first step would say, okay, well, how many upgrades do we want? But that's not the best question. The best question, well, who is going to be eligible for upgrades? Who's going to be eligible for renewals? So these are the 5 profit centers. I'm going to have Mr. Metzger go through them and how we use these to help us get that total gross revenue number much higher.
Okay, so first of all, there's some taboo things in here too, right? So let's call out the elephant in the room. Some of you, it's got to be statistically speaking, some of you on here don't believe in upgrades. And I will say that you don't believe in upgrades, for those of you who don't, because you were never you were never explained, again, there's spin, you were never explained a different way or approach on upgrades. But here's the deal. We know we need new students to generate more revenue. We need new students. Upgrades should never be forced or required. Upgrades is something that you offer, and if customers would like to get that, there's an extra fee for that. But it has nothing to do with your core program. So I want to be sure you understand. If you teach Taekwondo, I join your school, I sign up, I pay my monthly rate, and I can get a black belt in Taekwondo, and I never have to upgrade. But if you tell me you want to start learning how to flip around a room and do things that's not part of required curriculum, well, we have a program for that. Here it is. Or double nunchucks or bow staff. If it's not part of your curriculum and you want to add this, if customers want it, that's up to them if they want to do it, if they see the value. So upgrades, anytime you can get a current student paying you more often or more, you're going to generate more revenue. Retail, that's one of the biggest mistakes or weak areas in martial arts schools, because you guys will use, it costs money. A lot of schools will take valuable space in their martial arts school to have a pro shop or retail, and that's not what sells retail. What sells retail is packaging your retail into your programs and requiring it. For example, if I join baseball and my kid makes the little league team and the coach says everybody needs to have a glove, a bat, and these sneakers, no parent argues. They go and they get the bat and the glove and the sneakers because we need that to play baseball. Same thing in martial arts. Retention. We spend more time focusing on how to acquire a new student than keeping an existing one. And it's just because you don't understand. When I say you, please, I'm not talking to any specific people. I'm talking to our industry. We as an industry, we don't understand the power of retention and the revenue of retention. And you can't possibly understand that unless you know your student value. So if you could keep a student 1 month longer on average, let's say you have 200 students. Let's say you have 100 students. You have 100 students. If you put some systems in the place that, and by average, I don't care if your average student lasts 100 years or 3 months, but if you could just get the average to be 1 month longer, right? And you have 100 students. Let's say you have a $200 student value. Well, guys, what's 200 students times $100? That's $20,000 in extra revenue just by increasing retention by 1 month as an average. And that's just, this is a simple explanation. And then special events. Special events can be anything from a parent's night out where people want to pay $35 so they can go out to dinner and their kids are going to have fun at your school, to seminars that you want to offer in your school, to self-defense lessons or self-defense seminars. Special events can be anything you offer that people can pay extra for. Now, when you integrate all of these and you systemize these, that's when you start maximizing your student value.
All right, so let's do like an actual exercise right now. I'm going to share the screen of my iPad, and I dropped this link earlier. Let me drop it again for those of you that maybe came in a little bit later. Download that, keep it, because I'm going to want you to walk through this exercise as well. Let me get this screen shared. And this was the exact exercise Mr. Metzger had me walk through back in 2015. He didn't have some fancy PDF. He just had me write it on a sheet of paper. But now you guys are going to have the ability to be able to fill this in. And what I do want to say is that this is not an exact science. Okay, it's not an exact science, but it does give you and your team a starting point on how you're going to reach your revenue goal. Okay, so let's say your starting active count is 100 students, and let's say you charge 150 per month. Okay, so that means your billing check that is going to be coming in is $15,000. Now, oftentimes when we start working with schools, they don't really set a revenue goal if they haven't been implementing these and integrating these profit centers. That's much higher than what their tuition billing check is. So oftentimes this is just it, we'll probably end up at around that 15,000. Most schools front of mind is new students. So let's say this particular location signed up 10 new students, and the only option that they have is a monthly payment of $150, and that's going to bring in $1,500 in additional revenue for this school. They don't do down payments or registration fees, not that we suggest registration fees. They don't integrate new student packages, retail packages either. There's no paid in full options. So really all of these other options, they're not implementing. And let's say they, don't agree or believe in the power of upgrades, so they didn't get any upgrades. They do automatic month-to-month renewals, which we do know the schools that offered that in COVID kind of had a little bit more difficult time getting through that than schools that weren't doing this automatic month-to-month. So let's say they are doing the month-to-month. Well, there's not going to be anything increased on the renewal side. And then you have retail. And oftentimes we aren't thinking of our retail in packages. We have the space for the pro shop. We'll put some t-shirts up, and let's say this school, they sell 10 shirts at $20, and that brings in an additional $200. Okay. And maybe they are doing a pretty decent job with special events. Maybe they're going to host a parent night out event. They had 20 kids sign up at $25, and that brings in an additional $500. And maybe there's a student that's getting ready for a tournament and wants to purchase a private lesson. So they purchase the private lesson, one for $50, which would bring in $50. So in this particular example, their additional profit centers, right, is the $1,500 from the new students, $200 from the retail, $500 from the P&O, and $50 from the private lesson, which brings in $2,250 total. So if I add that to the 15,000, then this particular school is bringing in now a total gross revenue of $17,250, which 17,000 isn't too far off of that 15,000. This is the example where the tuition is 95% of the total gross revenue. Okay. Metz, before I go into, example B, anything you want to unpack on that?
No, I was nervous because I thought you were on example B, so I was getting nervous on what you're doing. No, everything is clear.
All right, so now, guys, let's look at a school that is integrating the profit centers, okay? And we're going to make this super fair. They're going to have that same active count of 100 students. They're charging $150 per month for their basic package. Their tuition is the same thing, but this school sets goals, sets targets. They are aiming for their tuition to only be 50% of the total gross revenue. So their total revenue goal is 30,000. Now they're going to sign up the same amount of students as school A. So they're going to get 10 new students. But this particular school utilize Maya's ABCD pricing. And with those ABCD pricing, we provide options to our new students that is really up to them and what their budget is, okay? So if we are keeping stats, we're going to have a good understanding of where the majority of people are landing in terms of the package that they choose, the program that they choose, whether it's an option A, which is a paid in full, an option B, where they put $399 down, option C, where they put $299 down, or an option D, where they put $199 down, okay? I know at Gracie Pack, we kind of averaged anywhere between 20 to 25% of our student base was choosing option A. Now, it'd be really easy for me to inflate these numbers and say, well, out of those 10 people, 8 people did a paid in full. But that's not what our numbers typically show us. So let's say this particular school does the ABCD pricing, and on average, about 70% of their new students that come in pick that option D. And for us, that means 7 students would be coming in and they'd be putting a down payment towards the cost of the program of $199. And I did my math beforehand, so I didn't have to bust out a calculator, but this would bring in $1,393. Okay. We've noticed that not a ton of people take us up on our option C, but we do have some people do option B. So let's say we have one person come in at the $399 down, and then because we're keeping stats and we know 20 to 25% are going to choose that option A because they enjoy the savings. We have two people come in and the paid in full option is $14.99 for the 12-month program, which would bring in $2,998. Now, because we do integrated sales with the profit centers at our school, when you get started, you have to purchase a new student package, and that new student package has a cost. So out of these 10 new students, 7 of them did that option D, which means they would have to purchase that new student package, and we charge $69 for that. That could include a uniform, it can include a sling bag, it could include a mouthpiece, a t-shirt, a belt. It's really dependent on your style, okay?
Hey,
So
Chris,
if
can I jump in?
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, I know, and you all know, she's losing some of you right now. You know, you know that, right? Also, some of you are saying, oh, okay, well, I don't understand. $399 down, we're never going to do that. $199 down, and we give away a uniform with a trial, or we know what you're thinking. We know, but also I want to say that there's a difference between a registration fee or an enrollment fee and a down payment on the program. If you guys, this is a soft sell for you guys, because I'm listening to this as if I were you and I've never seen this before, heard about the Maya structure. But if you have questions when this is over, call me. We'll set up a call and I'll explain it to you better. But just know that whatever you're thinking, we've already heard it 100 times. And when we explain it, people have that mindset that we talked about earlier. Mind shift is what they have. They have a mind shift which changes your mindset. So just understand that, follow her, and just don't get shut off by the obstacles that may be coming up in your mind.
Appreciate that, Menson. Yeah, guys, we're going to open it up for questions. So write down your questions as I'm going through this. Okay. So we do sell a new student package. It is a requirement, right? The same example, if you sign your kid up for baseball or soccer, there is going to be a package that they're going to have to purchase in order to be successful in that sport. So in this example, we sold 7 of them at $69. That would bring $483. The package B person that put the $199 down, we actually give a slight discount on that student package because they put more money down. So they would only pay $49 for their new student package. And the way that we help to incentivize people to do a paid in full, which is option A, we actually include the new student package as an incentive to get them to go with option A. Okay. So just in this example alone, this is the amount that is being brought in just from the new student profit center. Okay. Next, we're going to shift over to your upgrades. And again, if you're not doing upgrades, well, then you're not going to be able to leverage this profit center. Let's say in this particular example, and not everybody's going to upgrade, right? And again, this goes back to keeping stats and knowing, okay, on average, 80% of our students that we nominate are going to upgrade. So let's say in this example, we nominated 7 or 8 people. We know only 80% are going to take us up on that. So we get 5 upgrades for this month, okay? So in this example, just like we have for our new student, for our basic package, our upgrade package also includes options for how to pay. And Mr. Metzger always says life is better with options. And I absolutely agree with that sentiment. And as a parent now who has a 3-year-old that is looking to put their child into extracurricular activities, me personally, if I know that this is something we're committing to, I would rather get the discount than paying a monthly payment. Okay. So let's say in this particular example, and you know, let's even drop it down to 4 upgrades. All right. 4 upgrades is what we're aiming for this month. We do option D. If 3 people signed up at $299, that would bring $897. And our Elite and Masters Club program. Now, I'm a BJJ school, guys. A BJJ school. We do 3-year agreements for our upgrade programs. And when I first started with Maya, I was doing 6 months. And when Mr. Metzger said you need to do 3 years, I was so hesitant. So we kind of baby stepped it up. We went from 6 months to 12 months, and then we did 18 months, and then we did 24 months. And then finally seeing that this does not stop people from enrolling, whether it was a 6-month or a 24-month, we finally went to 36 months. And again, you might be thinking there's no way somebody would sign up for a 36-month program. And I'm here to tell you, and I'd love to know in the comments, those of you that do sell 3-year programs, if you do, put a yes in the chat if you do have a 3-year program, 36-month program that people are enrolling on. Mr. Jackson,
and by the way,
yes. Mr. Bill, yeah, go ahead.
Let me just sound the alarm again. Notice how Cris said, I told her you need to do 3-year programs, but Cris didn't do that. She did 6 months, then she did 12. So you don't need to do anything, nor can I or anyone force you to do anything. Cris came along on her own saying, wow, we can do that. Now, this is a taboo thing too, and I'll give you, if we ever get on the phone, I'll give you the mindset shift on well, just provide high customer service, and you don't need to do contracts, you don't need to do this, you don't need to do 3 years. Yeah, you do. I mean, yes, you do, because I'll explain why it's better and more important to do that, but not now. I just want to let you know, I know what some of you may be thinking.
Okay. So for our 3-year program, if they do it paid in full, and let's say, 3 people chose option D, 1 person chose option A, this is $4,949. And we get this consistently on a monthly basis, in some cases, siblings. So getting 2 of them, it is possible, guys. And you're seeing everybody in here. I mean, Mr. Jesse James says he has up to 9-year programs. Okay. So it is a mindset shift that you have to have. Now, they also need to purchase a package because these classes for us are different styles of martial arts that require different equipment. So in this particular case, 3 people would have to purchase the upgrade package at $199, which would bring $597 in. If they do option A, we include that. Again, it's another incentive for them to go for option A. Okay. Then we have renewals. And again, if you're just doing automatic and it's not, for us, we do 12-month programs and then 36-month programs. In some cases, if they don't upgrade, then they're going to need to renew. That's where these renewals come in. And let's say in this particular case, kind of same thing. You get 4 renewals. 3 of them are option D at $199, which would bring $597 in. And then let's say you got 1 renewal with the paid in full at $14.99. So again, guys, I'm going to highlight the additional revenue that is coming in when you follow this particular system. Now, let's kind of dive into retail, because I think for most people, they don't do a great job of packaging, right? And we kind of have it built in with the upgrade programs and when you're enrolling those new student packages. But even to have a monthly offer with your retail of saying, okay, it's a little chilly out. Maybe we have some extra hoodies from the holiday event. We're going to package a hoodie and a t-shirt together. And the cost would be $79. Okay. So if I make a goal that when we're doing mat chats, we're going to go ahead and post in the pro shop. We're going to post in the Facebook groups that we're doing a special. If you buy a hoodie and a t-shirt together, you only pay $79. And I'm proactively marketing that at $79. If I can sell 20 bundles, that's going to bring in $1,580. And I don't think a lot of schools kind of look at that as, well, what's our marketing strategy for increasing the retail profit center? Okay. For special events, we're going to do the same thing. They did a piano, same thing as the school up here. Piano, 25 bucks, which guys, like, we're charging $40 plus for our parent night out events. I'm giving you permission to increase your prices on pianos, especially if you are selling them out. I wouldn't just go ahead and double it immediately, work your way up. But this is a very, very low priced parent night out example that I'm giving. So let's say we did 20 at 25 bucks, $500. And maybe we have an in-house tournament coming up, or maybe there's a competition that we're going through. So we are really going to be pushing private lesson packages to help our students get ready for that tournament. And we sell 3 of those packages. Notice the school up here just sold a one-off, okay? So in this case, we're selling a package of private lessons that costs $800. That can bring in, $300 for a private lesson package. That would bring in an additional $900. Now, I went ahead and added all of this up so I wouldn't have to waste our time. But in this particular example, the profit center revenue brings in an additional $16,841. You add that on top of your $15,000 in tuition, this school just crushed their $30,000 goal, getting $31,841. Okay, now, like I said in the beginning, this isn't an exact science, right? We're not going to be 100% sure that, okay, we average 7 new students that go to option D, that's going to happen. But if you start keeping these stats, you're going to be able to set goals that are going to be in line with what the data is showing you. And just simply taking pen to paper with your own numbers and what you're charging, you can now have a blueprint for how you are going to get to the 20,000 or 25,000 or 30,000. Okay. I think this is really impactful. When Mr. Metzger broke it down this way based off of the profit centers, we really started to be more proactive of how can we not have our tuition at 95% of our total gross revenue and start pulling that back to be at around 50%. Metz, pass the mic to you.
Yeah, I mean,
we
I'd
have
like
some
to
questions in here too.
Yeah, I'd like to know if anybody has questions here, because I know this could be controversial. I know it can be confusing. So do we have any?
Yeah, so we did. Yeah, we had a couple of questions. So option A paid.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so I see that. So Shelly asked, on your option A paid in full, what type of discount do you offer for those commitments? Well, let me answer it this way. I want everybody to pay attention that don't know. But before I answer that, for those of you who offer a discount for a paid in full, can you put in the chat box what discount you offer? For those of you who offer a discount for a paid in full, what discount, what percent off do you offer? 20, 10, 20, 15, 20, 15, 20 for upgrades, 20, 25, 20, 15. Is that a different question? What's the monthly tuition you're seeing in Maya? I'll get to that. All right, here's the deal, everybody. Listen, for those of you who offer a discount, there's some My Elite clients on here. There's our clients that are on here and they're answering too. But for those of you who offer 10, why not 5? Why not 15%? Or if you're offering 15, why not 20%? Why not 10%? A lot of us just pick a number, right? And the mindset is, well, I don't want to give away. I don't want to lose money. I don't want to lose money. Well, here's the reality. If you have a 12-month term for a basic program, and some of you don't believe in terms, you believe in month to month. Cris, I'm going to say this real quick. I just feel like I need to. For those of you who like month to month, I can spin it and I can sell you on why you should do month to month and not term. And then I can spin it and tell you why you need to do term and not month to month. And then there's logic and reality. And here's the logic and the reality. Cris just told you she saw no difference when she was upgrading people, whether it was 6 months, 12 months, 18, or 36, as far as percentage of people that upgrade. The only reason you would do month to month is because you think you'll get more people to enroll. And in reality, you may get more people to enroll, but you're going to lose money doing that. Why? So you have to go down, you have to peel the onion layer. Why do people quit your school? People quit because they get bored. People quit because they lose the value in what they're doing. Something else is more fun or exciting to me. So I'm going to take a break. Whether that's soccer, baseball, I'm just tired, I'm going to go to the gym instead. Why do they quit, right? When you get people to commit, your job as a martial artist is to get people to black belt and beyond, I believe. And if you disagree with me, then I'll ask you in the chat box, well, as a martial arts instructor, what is your goal for your student? To get them to what level? Blue belt, green belt, yellow belt, beginner, intermediate, or to be a lifelong martial artist, right? The difference is people that commit, right, and purchase a program and not a membership. Don't put me on a one-year membership, because a one-year membership just gives me the right to train at the school indefinitely. I don't want to do that. I want to purchase a one-year program, which this is what you're buying and this is what you're going to get in 1 year. This is all the stuff you're going to get in this one-year program. And then in Chris's example, this is what you're going to get there. Now, I'm answering the question on the discount on the paid in full, but I wanted to explain this. If you sign people up on a 12-month program and you sign up 100 people in January, I think you would agree that if you sign 100 people up in January on a 12-month program, you will not have those 100 people at the end of December. You won't have it. People quit, people move, people get sick, people whatever, right? So then the question is, well, how long does your average student last in a 12-month snapshot? Even if you are a month-to-month school, if you sign people on a month-to-month, okay, how long does the average student last in a 12-month period? Well, it's not 12 months. If you have a student that lasted 30 years, we would just check the box that they lasted 12 months, because I only want to know in a 12-month snapshot. So in a 12-month snapshot, your students either last 12 months or less. So what is the average length of time? What is the average length of time that your student lasts in a 12-month snapshot? The national average in a martial arts industry, believe it or not, was 6 months. And I thought that was pathetic and I couldn't believe it. So I went back to all of our schools. At the time, we had 10 schools and we sold 2 schools to our instructors, okay? But at the time, before we sold 2 schools to our staff, which we allow them to do if they want, I told all of them to go back and I want to know how long does our average student last in a 12-month snapshot? Well, the people that are paying monthly, the average student lasted 9 months. Well, that means even if you are paying me full price, the average student is only making 9 payments out of 12, which means they're only making 75% of those payments. So then I said to my staff, I want you to take out all paid in full people, and I want to know how long do they last on an average of 12 months. Well, the average paid in full student lasted 10.5 months instead of 9, average. So then I said, well, then give 25% off to anybody that wants to pay in full. Now, am I losing money? No. On average, I'm getting the same amount of money up front that I'm getting on average somebody who's paying every month, because they were only making 9 out of 12 payments on average. However, if you understand the 5 profit centers, I'm making a lot more money by getting them to pay in full, because on average, I'm keeping them longer. So we tell people, give 25% off. However, that's not a blanket statement. I'd want to dive into your numbers. We'll figure it out together. The numbers don't care what your mindset is. The numbers don't lie. And we will find out how long your average student lasts in 12 months. But I promise you, it's not going to be 80%. It's not going to be like 10 months out of 12 as an average, it will not be. Even though you think it is right now, some of you think it will be, it won't be. But we'll find out what it is. But I won't go more than 25% because it's unnecessary. So if we did find out your average student lasted 6 months, I'm not going to tell you to give 50% off your paid in fulls. So the most I would do is 25. You saw some of the people on here that are in elite say 20. That's because they felt they were getting a lot of paid in fulls and they thought they could still get the same amount by doing 20. No problem. We'll do 20%. But there's a rhyme and reason for everything we do, and it's backed up by data. So that's the answer to your question. Next question.
What's the monthly tuition you guys are seeing in Maya?
Well, yeah, I would say the average monthly tuition is 150 and above. I mean, we were at in October of 2022, we went from 149 to 159. And then mid to late last year, we went from 159 to 169. So we did 2 rate increases within a year, and there's been no difference.
Can you talk a little bit about how that differs from maybe the Black Belt Club and the Masters Club?
Yeah, so it's very simple. It breaks down to if you upgrade, and by the way, if you're a BJJ or MMA school, we don't call it Black Belt Club and Masters Club. We'll call it, for the most part, your core program, your elite program, and your ultimate program. Part of the formula for success too is to have three core programs, and there breaks down to $25 extra per program. So if you could get people onboarded into your school at $150 a month, and then through value, so picture this, I'm paying you $150 every month. And somewhere along the line, 3 months later, 4 months later, 6 months later, man, I'd really like to do this. Well, it's only $25 extra a month. There's a down payment, but it breaks down to just $25. Well, now you have a student now paying you $175 a month. And then at some point during your journey, you want to go to this elite program or Masters Club, and it's only $25, but I'm used to paying $175. So now I'm paying you $200 a month. But if you just try to enroll people out of the gate at $200 a month, you might have some price resistance depending on your community. Now, there's consultants and people out there that say, you're worth it. You go to school more than a doctor. You've studied for 20 years. Charge $200 a month. Just ask them where they live and what their average household income is before you start jumping and doing that. Because that won't work here. In some of my areas in Orlando, that won't work. Charging people $200 a month. So we get you in at $159, $25 more at some point, $25 more at another point, but we don't force that either. And I will tell you that over 80% of our students are in an upgraded program. I have the numbers right here. I have the total upgrades for the year, the total students lost, student value of everything. So data backs up everything that we do. Go ahead, Chris.
We got 2 minutes, so speed. We're gonna speed rush this. We live in a military community, so difficult to have students sign up with a contract in this city. How do we get around this? We hear this from some of our Canadian clients where they're not potentially allowed to do more than 12-month agreement. So
very simple.
What do you say?
If somebody moves, we prorate the refund, whether they paid in full or they're on an agreement. So if you move, get transferred, get deployed, or just get a job transfer, we cancel your agreement if you're paying monthly. If you paid in full because you're not sure when you're going to move or get transferred, and you want to save that money in case you do last the 12 months, pay in full. But if you do move during that time, we will prorate a refund and give you your money back based on the regular price of the program. But we're very crystal clear with that up front. Also, there's certain states in the United States, not just Canada, that won't allow you to take long-term agreements unless you get a bond. So look into a bond, and we'll get people a bond. Other cases, we'll just do it anyway. But if anyone ever says, I want out, we give them a refund. We don't hold people to it if they put up a fight. So I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just telling you what our clients have done.
Awesome. Well, guys, if you enjoyed this webinar, which I hope you did, I hope you're excited about having this expansion blueprint. I just want to say thank you for hopping on. If you'd like help with getting more students, you can book a free marketing audit. If you're interested in learning more about Maya, you can email Ernie Palesco at palesco.maya@gmail.com. We are here to help. We're here to serve. And we'd love to be able to help you get more students as well as increase your student value. Doris, you have a question? I see your hands up. Maybe not. All right. Mets, thank you so much for hopping on, being here. Any last words?
No, here's the last word. It's 2024. If you're not where you want to be, let us try to help you. I mean, I know we can help you. I mean, you decide, but you got to take action. I guess there's an audit in there. You can click the link. You guys can find me if you really want to, if you want to have a chat or a talk, but we can help you. So good luck. Have an unbelievable year, and hope to talk to you all at some point.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for hopping on. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.